This conference will now be recorded.
Yeah.
It's my pleasure to introduce the speaker for today's session.
Good morning,
Miss Pragya Bhatt, who happens to be our alumni, one of the brightest alumni, and I'm very proud to present her. That she is no doubt a technocrat. She has worked as a technocrat, as a software engineer with the Infosys, as well as other corporates, Accenture. And after the 9 years as a techie, she has changed her profession from job to an entrepreneurship, that too in a very different fashion. We can say in the yoga. Whenever we talk about yoga, we just think about the various asanas and all that. She has written a book that is beyond asanas, that is about myths, about the various yogas and all that. No doubt she is having a lot of, you can say, exposure to this yoga session. She is an international yoga teacher. She has learned about yoga. Not only that, she's like an ordinary trainer. She has a perfectly trained yoga teacher by various renowned institutions like Swami Vivekananda University, from where she has learned about yoga, and she has authored various books. Right now also she's writing another book on yogasana, and she will be today giving us a more insight into this session. I'm really proud to receive Ms. Pragya Bhatt in this session. Welcome, Ms. Pragya Bhatt. You are very, very well welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you, sir. Well, I'd like to start with expressing, some a note of thanks and a lot of gratitude for being given this opportunity. Not many people can claim that after 20 years of having left their college, that they get to go back and actually share. Like in my case, I'll be sharing a little bit about a subject which I'm very passionate about, and a subject which I feel is the need of the hour for everybody, particularly of the kind of lives that we lead, which happen to, be very stressful sometimes. There are so many aspects of life that a subject such as yoga can help us in handling and in dealing with. So I'd like to really just take a moment to thank all of you for your time and for granting me this opportunity. And with that, I'd like to share my screen, the presentation that I've actually created for the purpose of this session. So let me just present this. So the title for today's session is Yoga, a Brief History and Its Relevance Today. Let me just go on. So undoubtedly, yoga being the kind of subject that it is these days, everyone, I'm sure in the audience today, has had some sort of exposure to yoga. Some of us think it's an exercise. We think it's meditation. It's an activity. Some people think it's a course. It's some sort of philosophy. Some people will say that it's spirituality. But what is yoga actually? Is it any one of these things, or is it something that's something completely different that we can't even conceive of? What is yoga? It's such a mysterious subject, and I hope to shed some light on it, during these the next few minutes of my presentation. So I'll predominantly talk about 3 topics today. The first will be the history of yoga, the importance of yoga, and the relevance of yoga today. And I would also like to make this a more of some sort of interactive session. So if you have any questions, I will take those as well, because I know in a subject like yoga, all of us have some questions. And if time permits, I would also like to show you a little bit of chair stretching, some stretches that people who have desk-bound jobs can do. Like just by sitting on your chair, you can just move a little bit so that you can ensure that your joints are healthy. You can ensure that you don't have any back pain, so that you can maintain your health just by sitting on a chair. So I would like to share that also if time permits. Now, okay, so the history of yoga. I said, like, the title of my presentation is A Brief History of Yoga. And the reason for that is that any kind of history of a subject such as yoga has to be brief, because yoga is such an old subject that it is impossible for any kind of book or program or presentation to actually give you the entire history. Now, although the first documentation that we have about this subject is about 5,000 years old, so, we've about 5,000 years ago, we would have found some sculptures which depict some yogasana, or we would have found like some text which references the practice of yoga. But we know that yoga was actually being practiced a long time ago because it was largely an oral tradition. So the theory is that if I have been hearing about something, only if I've been practicing something, can I write about it. So although we have found written documentation 5,000 years ago, you can assume that because it was written about at that time, it was practiced a long time before that. And also, it was actually first mentioned in the Rig Veda. There was just a mention of it. It was not explained or expostulated about, but there was a mention in the Rig Veda. So we know that even around that time, around 1500 BC, we know that people had an idea of what yoga is, and yoga was very much a part of people's lives. So moving on, some definitions about yoga. In the beginning of the session, I asked, we were talking about like, what is yoga? Is it an activity? What exactly is it? So now the Rig Veda, as I said, is where the reference for yoga comes for the first time. Now it defines the word yuj, and we believe yuj is the root of the word yoga. And yuj actually means to join. And now in the Rig Veda, they were talking about joining like your spirit to the universal spirit. They've spoken about many such joining, many such yoking or connections between like your spirit, the universal spirit, between yourself, the universal self. And also in this particular instance, where in the Rig Veda, it was also talking about in the sense of horses, like how wild horses have to be yoked to make them work. In the same way, your spirit, which is very wild, your mind, which is all over the place, has to be yoked. It has to go through the process of yuj or yoga in order to be successful. So that is the concept that is there in the Rig Veda, and therefore we know that the subject of yoga, although very popular right now, is something that has always been there. Since the time of the Rig Veda, and perhaps even before that. And now that's in the Rig Veda. But now we know everybody has heard of Patanjali because of Baba Ramdev these days. Everyone has heard about Patanjali. Now Patanjali, many people think Baba Ramdev himself is Patanjali, but no, Patanjali was actually a sage. He was a very prolific sage in Indian history. He was born in about 200 BC, and he has written a lot of texts. He's written about medicine, he's written about grammar, and he wrote about yoga. And one of the most important works in the whole history and philosophy of yoga is the Patanjali Yoga Sutras. These are 196 aphorisms, which means 196 sayings about the process of yoga, the whole philosophy of yoga. And he's divided it into 4 chapters to make it easy for us to understand. In that, he's given the definition of yoga, and this is the second aphorism, and he says it's yoga's chitta vritti nirodha. That simply put, yoga is the cessation of the fluctuations of the mind, which means that all the thoughts that you have, which sometimes are very wild, which are sometimes uncontrolled, which are sometimes very you cannot understand them, which are very strange, and you're unable to understand them. Yoga is the process through which you can control these fluctuations, these waves of the mind, these waves of the mind which sometimes you don't even understand. And the Patanjali Yoga Sutras are also, it is a very old text. It was compiled around 500 to 400 BC. So again, when it comes to yoga, we never say that one person invented it. Patanjali did not invent yoga. The people who compiled the Rig Veda did not invent yoga. Nobody invented it, but it was something that was always around, that people were observing. So Patanjali was observing yoga around him, and he compiled this text, which is the Patanjali Yoga Sutras. Now, I mentioned that there are 4 chapters in the Patanjali Yoga Sutras. And just to give you an idea what these are called the Samadhi Pada, Samadhi chapter, the Sadhana chapter, Vibhuti chapter, and the Kevalya chapter. And all of these actually, in a progressive manner, they talk about the process of yoga. So in the first chapter, for instance, you define yoga, you define what is consciousness. In the second chapter, he talks about what kind of efforts we must make to reach enlightenment, which is the actual goal of yoga. He talks about, in the same text, he talks about the kind of impact that the practice of yoga can have on us, on a practitioner. And finally, he talks about what happens in the final level of yoga, which is when you achieve samadhi, which is when you achieve enlightenment. So you see, yoga, although it is right now we call it an exercise, and everybody has a different idea of what yoga is. Patanjali, about 500 BC, he has told us that basically yoga is a path, and if you follow this path, these things are going to happen. He has actually clearly defined in his Yoga Sutras what yoga is. And a lot of you might have heard about Ashtanga Yoga, which is basically Ashtanga, 8 limbs of yoga. And in that also Patanjali has defined, what are the different levels of the path of yoga. So basically these are like things like yamas, the things that you're supposed to do, niyamas, the things that you must observe daily. He's mentioned that asana is a part of yoga. He's mentioned pranayama is a part of yoga. He's mentioned that meditation is a part of yoga. And he's mentioned that if you do all of these, then you reach samadhi, which is enlightenment. So he's done great work to really demystify this subject for us, and he did it so long ago. It is a surprise that even today sometimes there are many people who don't have a clue about what yoga is, when there's so many Indian philosophers who years ago, centuries ago, have already really specified what it is and written it down for us to see. Now, so we've discussed the Patanjali Yoga Sutra, we've discussed the Rig Veda. Now there are other texts also in Indian literature and in Indian history which talk about yoga. And many of you may be surprised to find out that one of them is the Bhagavad Gita. Now, most of us know about the Bhagavad Gita. We may even know the shlokas. But the Bhagavad Gita is one of the main texts that as yoga students we study. Okay, so some of the definitions in the Bhagavad Gita that are available for us about yoga is like the first one, yoga karmasu kaushalam. Yoga is skill in action. In chapter 2, verse 50 of the Bhagavad Gita, it is defined that when you do any action with knowledge, with a particular kind of skill, with an adroitness, then that is yoga. So you can choose your action. It doesn't have to be the same action for everybody. But if whatever you are doing, whatever your chosen course of action is, if you do it with a certain knowledge, with a certain skill, with a certain kind of art, then that is yoga. And now the Bhagavad Gita also, it was compiled in the 2nd century BCE. So which again goes to show us that the subject of yoga is so old. And many of you already know that it is a conversation between Arjuna and Krishna. And it is because of this conversation that the Bhagavad Gita is so important for yoga practitioners, because it is in this conversation that many important ideas come out. Ideas that are important for us as yoga practitioners and for us as human beings, such as, dharma, what is karma, what is right and what is wrong. All of these, aspects of human life are explained in this conversation between Arjuna and Krishna. So that is why, because of the moral and the ethical aspect of it, it is something that we are encouraged to study. And you can see in the slide itself, there are 4 paths of yoga which are very clearly enumerated in the Gita. That is Jnana Yoga, which is the yoga of knowledge, Karma Yoga, which is the yoga of action, Raj Yoga, which is the yoga of meditation, and finally Bhakti Yoga, which is the yoga of devotion. And the Bhagavad Gita has 18 chapters, and each chapter is about a different kind of yoga. Okay, so for instance, chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita is the yoga of knowledge, chapter 3 is yoga of action, chapter 6 is yoga of self-control, and chapter 12 is the yoga of devotion. So if you actually go to through the Bhagavad Gita, you will see that these chapters are enumerated, and each verse of each chapter is actually about a philosophy of yoga or an aspect of the philosophy of yoga. Now moving on. Okay, so what is the importance of yoga? Why are we as a world now, not just as a country, why are we as a world so interested in yoga? Now, in my opinion, it is because of its ability to heal people holistically. It's an important component of holistic health. When I say holistic health, I mean health which takes into account your emotional and your physical health. So you can be healthy very physically, but nowadays, if you see, most of the problems that people have are of an emotional nature. Okay, whether it's stress, whether it's something like, let's say, depression, whether it's something like even unhappiness. All of these are diseases of the mind, which are very dangerous because they are not evident. I cannot see somebody's unhappiness. I cannot see somebody's depression. Sometimes I cannot see my own depression and my own unhappiness. And so if you cannot see it, modern medicine, and particularly Western medicine, cannot treat it, cannot cure it. And that is where holistic health comes, because unless you are emotionally and physically healthy, your whole system is not healthy. And yoga provides a solution for that. And now, internationally, yoga is actually clubbed under as an alternative therapy. It is a complementary or integrative medicine, which means that along with your allopathic medicine, yogasanas, yoga therapy, it is also prescribed. It has started to happen. And we see that across the world now, because we have from everywhere from the World Health Organization to medical departments of universities doing a lot of research about this. So like Western medicine till now has said, okay, cancer is something that we can only treat, we cannot cure. There are so many other diseases. You can say like vitiligo is a disease of the skin, which people say cannot be cured. There's so many diseases which allopathy and Western medicine cannot cure. But with alternative therapies, and which includes yoga as its main component, we have seen a spontaneous remission in certain cancers and other diseases. Yoga also includes things like hypnotherapy and past life regression. So if you see Dr. Brian Weiss, he's he's written books such as Many Lives, Many Masters. You see all of these people talk about so many principles of yoga and they don't even realize it. If you taking a more modern example, there's a health documentary on Netflix called Heal, which is talking about the same thing, about how a holistic approach to health can actually cure things that till now we were thinking are incurable. Also in Western medicine, we say that, okay, ideas of faith healing, of having, certain confidence in your treatment, that these have no impact on the treatment. But if you look at even Western medicine has looked at something called the placebo effect, wherein patients who've been told that they're being given a particular medicine have displayed, a reaction to that medicine, a favorable reaction to that medicine, whereas that medicine has only been a placebo. It is actually not the real medicine, but they've just been given it, saying that it is, the actual medicine, and they've shown a great impact and great recovery just by taking this placebo medicine. So that is where all of the faith healing, comes in. The faith that we have that a subject which is related to spirituality, a subject which is basically emotionally culturing us, can actually impact us on a physical level. And that is the importance of yoga. Also, if you see the Department of Ayush, the Indian government actually has actually made great inroads in this idea of healing. because now we have the Department of Ayush, which is the first of its kind in the world, where you are actually looking at alternative therapies, to actually treat diseases for which there are known causes as well as unknown causes. So a lot of like psychosomatic diseases such as depression, such as even things like blindness, epilepsy, vitiligo, all of these are being treated by the Department of Ayush. And just to let you know what Ayush is, Ayush actually stands for every single alternative therapy that is available in India. So A is Ayurveda, Y is Yoga, U is Unani, S is Siddha, and H is homeopathy. So all of these in India we've been practicing for centuries, but only now is the world waking up to the idea that yes, these are systems of healing which we can actually make the most of. And the physical aspect of yoga is also that it impacts your nervous system. There is no other form of exercise, there is no other form of healing which actually impacts your nervous system. And yoga does that. And so that is why it is one of the most important things. Now, just to elaborate a little bit further about how it impacts the nervous system, a lot of you might already know a little bit about the human nervous system. It is composed of the brain and the spinal cord. So it's composed of the CNS and the PNS. The CNS has your brain and spinal cord, and the peripheral nervous system is the nervous system which has all your motor neurons. Okay, which has your nerves, which has your autonomic nervous system. So this is directly responsible for sensation, for sensing not only like physical sensations, but also to interpret what you are seeing. To interpret what is the physical sensation that you're experiencing right now. So now, what is the autonomic nervous system? Now, you must have read about the fight or flight or rest and relax reactions of the human body. So quite simply put, you have the sympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for fight or flight reaction. So whenever I see that I'm in danger, I want to run from it. Okay, and this is particularly something which was important, thousands of years ago when we were hunters and gatherers. And in that at that time, the flight or flight reaction made all the difference between me surviving and me being eaten up by another animal. But however, these systems are still present, very much a component of our autonomic nervous system. And so these are very important when we're looking at healing, when we're looking at how healthy an individual is. We have to look at how their nervous system is behaving and the condition of the nervous system. Now, the sympathetic nervous system is, the parasympathetic nervous system is responsible for your rest and relax. So now once I've dealt with the danger, whatever danger was there in my environment or around me, once I've dealt with it, I can now rest. Now, the thing is that right now, our sympathetic nervous systems are always stimulated. So whenever you're stressed, it is impacting your nervous system. Which nervous system is it impacting? It is impacting the sympathetic nervous system. If you are not just stressed, but if you are feeling very aggressive, if you are feeling very angry, if you are feeling any kind of very strong emotion, that is your sympathetic nervous system in play. And when you are actually feeling relaxed, say when you are meditating, when you're actually on vacation, when there is no disturbance in your mind, that is the parasympathetic nervous system. Most problems today that human beings have is because the sympathetic nervous system, which means your fight or flight reaction, is always constantly stimulated. But you are never in a state of rest. Even when you're sleeping, you may have sleep issues, sleep apnea, bad dreams, inability to sleep, so insomnia. All of these problems compound the bigger picture, right? So even when I'm sleeping, when I'm supposedly resting, I'm unable to rest. And this creates an imbalance in your system. And so far, yoga is the only solution that we have to balance these. And I will talk about how we are actually going to be balancing these. Okay, so now the importance of yoga today. Now, if you see, like historically, our biggest threats have been external. Okay, we have as human beings floods, drought, famine, pandemics. Pandemic is again here again, but historically, it's these things that have been a threat to us. The cholera, bubonic plague, Black Death, etc. But today, what is the biggest threat that we have? The biggest threat is us. Like I am my biggest threat today because of the choices that I make, the lifestyle choices that I make, and just because of the kind of world that we live in. There's a lack of empathy, there's a lack of sympathy. I find that people criticize too much. There's very little acceptance for other people's point of view. All of these right now are the biggest threats. We are no longer afraid that tuberculosis is going to kill us or that malaria is going to kill us. We're no longer afraid of that. We are afraid of human beings. Right? So yoga actually endeavors to make you a better person, a more resilient person. A strong body plus a strong mind makes you a resilient person. And yoga, as of now, yoga is the only solution for such mental health issues. And then the question would arise, why yoga? There are so many other spiritual paths. There are so many other let's say even religions, or there's so many other philosophies that I could indulge in. But why must I indulge in yoga? Why do I say repeatedly that yoga is the solution? And the reason I say that is because if you look at the Ashtanga yoga method that I had spoken about before, the 8-limbed yoga method, which talks about progressively getting to a state of enlightenment, the focus at every single step has been on your mental, emotional, and spiritual development, right? So yama and niyama, yamas and niyamas are basically those ethics that you have to follow every day, such as, satya, you must tell the truth, you must stay clean. Brahmacharya is another niyama that you must follow. So all of these, in the yoga philosophy, we have said that these are the first things. If you want to practice yoga, first you must focus on this. You must focus on telling the truth. You must focus on living a very restrained life. You must focus on living a balanced life. And then comes asana. Then you can talk about your physical development. So that is why yoga, because right now, if you go to any gym, if you go to any yoga class, there are many people trying to fix their bodies, but there are very few people who understand that their mind also has an issue, that the mind must be cleansed, that the mind must be also worked out. So the message is quite clear, in my opinion, that the ancient sages in India knew that for real health, you need to be healthy on the inside, that real health begins from the inside. Now, okay, so one question that people really ask me all the time is, what is yoga's stance on food, right? Because everybody wants to know, what kind of food do yoga practitioners eat? How can they be so healthy? How do they maintain themselves? Now, yoga, like food, has also been actually defined. So there's another text called the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, chapter 1, verse 58. So in the first chapter itself, they have defined what is good food. The idea of mitahar. Okay, so mitahar is actually defined as agreeable and sweet food. You're supposed to leave 1/4 of your stomach free, and you eat the food as an offering to please Shiva. Okay, now if you see this text, the Hatha Yoga Pradipika was written in approximately the 15th century. And even in the 15th century, people are saying that you must control what you eat. So if you think about the adage, you are what you eat, we have always known that. It is in our ancient books, right? Now, if you look at at the description given in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, it says sweet and agreeable food. Now, a lot of people find junk food to be very sweet and agreeable, but no. What we mean, and in yoga, when we say sweet and agreeable, we mean food that is according to your constitution, according to your dosha. And to find out your dosha, you would have to consult an Ayurvedic expert, but everybody has a different dosha and everybody has a different rate of metabolism. So what suits different people is different. Like what suits you will not suit me. What suits me will not suit you. I may have a very active lifestyle, therefore I may need to eat more. I may need to eat different kinds of things. So in yogic texts and according to the philosophy of yoga, there is a huge emphasis on understanding what suits me and what doesn't suit me. And this I find is one of the biggest challenges for people, because we all love to eat. And we're always eating a lot. We don't even, if I were to tell you that you should leave 1/4 of your stomach free, we would not even know what 1/4 of the stomach is. We would not know what half of the stomach is, you know. And this also, like yogasanas, this also requires a lot of practice. So you have to, every day, on a daily basis, with every meal, you have to really notice when you're feeling full, when you've eaten too much. You have to make a very special effort not to overload your system. If you overload your system, you overload your mind, and a dull system results in a dull mind. So as I've written in this in the presentation also, food is not for your sense gratification, but it is medicine. So if you're eating because you like the taste, that is not the purpose of food. The food is to nourish your body, it is to nourish your mind. And because this is the Hatha Yoga Pradipika that we're talking about, the food is always offered to Shiva first, because he was the first yogi. We consider him to be the Adi Yogi. We believe that all yoga asanas, the philosophy of yoga, comes from Shiva. And so we offer it to him first, and only once he has blessed it do we then eat it. Now, I mentioned the doshas in the previous slide, that you must eat according to your doshas. Now, the Gita also, surprisingly, the Gita also talks about doshas, and it talks about food. The Gita unequivocally talks about food. It talks about the three gunas. Now, the three gunas, as many of you might know, are your rajas, tamas, and sattvic. You know, so we sometimes say, okay, this person is very sattvic, he's very peaceful, and you know, sattvic food is without spices and things like that. But actually, it's a little more complex. So if you look at what the Gita says, how the Gita defines food. Now, there are three ways. So the first one, as you can see in the slide, is foods that are too bitter, too sour, salty, hot, pungent, dry, and burning are dear to those in the mode of passion. Okay, so those who are rajasic people, they will prefer food that is bitter, sour, salty. And if you eat such foods, these foods can cause distress, misery, and disease. All right, so this is again self-reflection. You know, you can actually look at these definitions and see, where do you fit in this entire thing? Now, the tamasic foods. Now, foods prepared more than 3 hours before being eaten, food that is tasteless, decomposed, and putrid, and food consisting of remnants and untouchable things is dear to those in the mode of darkness. Okay, tamas. So if you eat food that is not fresh, food that doesn't taste good, it is already decomposing, then you will also experience the impact of that food, and that impact can be lethargy. You could feel a lack of energy. Regardless of how much you eat, you will never feel energetic. Now, the last thing, which is sattvic foods. Now, if you are in the mode of goodness, when in the mode of sattvic, then foods dear to those in the mode of goodness increase the duration of life, purify one's existence, and give strength, health, happiness, and satisfaction. So such foods are juicy, fatty, wholesome, and pleasing to the heart. So you see, even in the Gita, they are talking about how your mind and body are connected. Okay, so if the food is pleasing to the heart, it is good food. You know, if the food is not putrid, it is not tasteless, it is not stale, then it is good food. Also, because we're talking about the Bhagavad Gita, according to the Bhagavad Gita, the food that you eat should be an offering to Krishna first. All right. Okay, and just for your information, sattva, rajas, and tamas. Sattva defines a very peaceful personality. Rajasic people are aggressive and violent. Tamasic people are lethargic and they lack energy. Now, according to the Gita, if you are a particular type of personality, your food choices will reveal that. So if you go to an Ayurvedic practitioner, they will ask you what kind of food you like to eat, and accordingly, they will figure out what your dosha is. However, realistically, if you go to an Ayurvedic doctor, you will probably find that you are a combination of all these three. In fact, during the day, your personality varies. After lunch, you might be tamasic. In the early morning, you might be sattvic. So it varies from person to person. Now let's move on. Okay, yoga and the secret to happiness. So as Japinder sir pointed out, I'm actually enrolled in a university called Swami Vivekananda University, and I'm undergoing a master's in yoga therapy. I'm studying yoga therapy. And in that university, there has been a lot of work done on the secret to happiness, because everybody wants to be happy. If you ask anyone today, they'll say, I just want to be happy. And they think that if I get a particular promotion, if I get a particular job, or if I get a particular kind of life partner, I will be happy, right? But surprisingly, in the university, we've actually found many interesting phenomena. One thing that we know after having studied thousands of people who are suffering is that everybody is suffering. Okay, if you feel that you're not suffering, you will suffer in the future, or you have already suffered in the past. So everybody, all of us know what suffering is. Now, if you examine suffering, you will find out that the suffering is due to stress. You're not born with suffering, and you're not born with stress. Stress happens as a result of the life that you lead, because of just being human and just having to live a life. So everybody is stressed, everybody is suffering. And now, what is stress? If you also individually speak to your family members about what is stress, everybody will say many different things. But at the Swami Vivekananda University, we have found that when people say they're stressed, what they're actually saying is that their mind, their thoughts are very fast. Okay, they're unable to control their thoughts. Their thoughts seem to be getting the better of them. So they have no control over their thoughts, and that is leading to them suffering, and which is why there are so many diseases, mental diseases today. So then, we thought that, okay, if stress is as a result of your thoughts and your fast thoughts, could it be possible that if we slow down your thoughts, if we eliminate, or if we decrease your thoughts, could we eliminate stress? Is it possible? And we found out that yes. And we actually did not have to go very far. We saw that in our scriptures themselves, the meditation is known as the antidote to stress. Because when you meditate, you are, for a period of time, you are stopping your thoughts. Therefore, for a period of time, you are stopping that stress. So your mind, for a little while, gets a break. All right. And also, if you look at yogic literature, again, if you go back to the Patanjali Yoga Sutras and Ashtanga Yoga, the 8 limbs of yoga, the 5th step that Patanjali has enumerated is called Pratyahara. And that basically means withdrawing your attention from the outside world to what is happening inside you. So after extensive study into the nature of stress at the Vivekananda University, we found out that first of all, the solution to these problems exist in our literature, in our ancient literature, but also that because everybody is suffering, everybody wants a solution to the suffering, that everybody should practice yoga. And yes, Patanjali has very clearly said that it starts with pratyahara, where you look inwards, and then then you start to focus, and then you start to meditate, and then eventually you reach the emancipation, which is samadhi. Okay, now meditation is a must. Okay, so if you think about your body as a machine, it's a machine that you can never change, and it is a machine that you probably spend the least amount of time maintaining. Most of us probably maintain our cars and our vehicles in a better way and with more attention than we maintain our bodies. But undoubtedly, the body is a machine, and meditation is a must for the human machinery. And it is a must to meditate daily. So in my line of work, I do come across many people who who think meditation is equal to sleeping. And they think that if you're watching TV and if you're watching something really nice that you like, or if you're reading something really nice, that is equal to meditation, because for some time they have forgotten their problems and they have just immersed themselves in something else, in another activity. But that is a misconception. So yogic, scholars, we've actually done a lot of experiments on the brain, particularly brain waves. So until now, in Western medicine, we were just analyzing different people's different brain waves, and during different periods of time, maybe during different times of the day, or when somebody is stressed, when somebody is depressed. So people were just, till now, we were just monitoring that. And we found that, yes, there are 5 different kinds of brain waves, and there's the theta waves and the beta waves and all of that. But now, because the world is now getting more interested in yoga, people have started to monitor what happens to the brain waves when you are meditating versus just relaxing. And we have found that there is an immense difference in the kind of brain waves that the brain releases when you are meditating. So if just as an example, like theta waves, which I enumerated in the PPT, these occur when you're doing something mechanical, repetitive, and restful. So you're washing the dishes, you're folding your clothes, maybe you're just channel surfing, or you're just watching something on YouTube or something like that. So yes, you may feel that you are relaxed, and you are relaxed, but this is not a meditative state. In a meditative state, you are within yourself, and you are not focusing on anything external to give you the relief. All right. And the difference between a restful state and a meditative state and an active state is in the beta waves. There are very few beta waves released in your brain whenever you're doing anything which is relaxed. Okay. However, when you are stressed, when you have a deadline, when you have to, whenever there's a problem that you have to solve, that is when your brain is active, and and beta waves are flowing. And for a lot of people today, especially in the world which is very type A, which is very driven by results, where we're always busy, we're always emitting beta waves, and that is a problem, because then there is no balance in terms of the waves that are also in your brain. So the activity of the brain is skewed. Also, the dopamine levels have also increased. There has been extensive research done on this, and dopamine is the hormone that is responsible for you feeling a sense of happiness, a sense of well-being. We see actually that people who are depressed or who don't feel good about themselves, there is a marked decrease in dopamine. And we see that, by putting these people on a program of yoga therapy and meditation, that the dopamine levels on their own, without the intervention of drugs, they increase. Also, another difference between meditation and just resting is also, you can see it in the brain itself, in the neural network of the brain. So in meditation, you have rejuvenation and reconditioning happening. So in meditation, my brain waves will slow down. And when I have to become active again, then these pathways have to be reestablished. However, in resting, the neural activity does not slow down. It is still there. It is just that I feel a sense of rejuvenation or a rest. After having spent hours watching YouTube videos mindlessly, I may feel rested, but my brain has not really rested. Now, okay, so people always ask me, what are some easy ways to meditate? As I mentioned, meditation is important, particularly for those of us who are very stressed. So I've found a few things that seem to be working for a lot of people, and which are very easy to do. So the first thing, many of you may have heard, Anulom Vilom Pranayam, which is also deep breathing, alternate nostril breathing. You can do this 10 to 15 minutes before you sleep. You do it for a month, 2 months, you will see in your personal relationships, in just the quality of your life. So that is one thing that we can do. Again, this is a yoga solution, and Anulom Vilom Pranayam has been, it is, and you find it in the Hatha Yoga Pradipika. So it is something that our sages were also practicing. Now, with depression and stress on the rise, the app world has not, made the most of it. So there are many apps which are quite good. Headspace is an app which is used by many people. So what you need to do is basically switch off, turn the app on, and just listen to some guided meditation every day. You can have like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15-minute meditations. And this is also very useful for those of us who want to begin the process of meditation. So Headspace is a US app. You also have homegrown apps like Eka, the meditation app. These guys are also doing great work. I happen to know the CEO of this company. And they actually have meditations in many different languages as well, Indian languages. So it's really useful for a lot of people, who want to start meditation but may not necessarily be open to going on YouTube, and may want something in their own language. Black Lotus is another one that I know a lot of my students use. So any of these, they have a free version, they have a paid version, and they're very useful. Now, I mentioned the brain waves, that the meditation and resting actually changes the brain waves. Now, listening to these positive vibrations can actually change the way your brain is wired. It can change the brain waves. So on YouTube, you could check for something called diurnal beats. This actually, just listening to it in the background can change the way you feel, because it is impacting the way your brain waves are. Listening to positive affirmations daily is an amazing way of really changing your outlook and alleviating stress. And also, because we are in India and yoga is a very Indian subject, we have found that bhajans and religious discourses, like for instance, listening to lectures about the Bhagavad Gita, these also help you in meditating, in reflecting, and in contemplating. So I would recommend bhajans and religious discourses as well, if that is something that that you're open to. Also, something that a lot of people really like is reading uplifting literature. So as a person who likes to read, I know that not everything you read is great. Like a lot of things, they don't incite a lot of peace in you. You read a lot of novels that are very hard hitting, emotionally charged. But every once in a while, we should read uplifting literature. And this is very evident in Indian literature and Indian culture as well, because if you look at the vast amount of literature that we have, like the Vedas, the Upanishads, the Upavedas, the Aranyakas, we have all this literature, and basically what it is very spiritual in nature. It is very much self-help in nature. So while the world is going crazy about self-help now, we know that in Indian literature, there's always been self-help. We've always been encouraged to look within to help ourselves. So these are a few easy ways to meditate, and very different from your usual idea of meditation. We think we have to chant Om and sit very still, but no, that is not the only way to meditate. Now I mentioned like reflection and contemplation, and these are very important in the practice of yoga. Okay, so in the Ashtanga system of yoga, you start with Swadhyaya, then Dharana, and Dhyana. Okay, so Swadhyaya is basically being mindful and being present and being reflective of what am I doing, what should I be doing, and basically, did I do the right thing? Am I doing the right thing? So in the yogic path, like when you become a yogi or when you want to practice yoga, a lot of importance is given to this. Like I said, we will always give the brain, the mind, a lot more importance than your physical well-being. So Swadhyaya is the first, activity of reflection that we have on the yogic path. And then you have dharana, which means to go inward. After I assess what I have done, what I do, why am I like this, I can go deeper to see if I can change that. And then finally, once I understand that, at least begin to understand, then I can actually sit in meditation. Because otherwise, if I don't do any self-reflection, if I don't do any contemplation, then I will not be able to meditate, because my mind will still be very violent. It will be unsettled, completely unsettled. So that is why we must do this, because you have to be mindful. If you are mindful, only then can you change your life, right? And here also, reflection has been an important tool for a lot of people I know. It has been an important tool for me. And and if you're looking at a way to develop self-development, if you're looking at tools of self-development, there is nothing which is better than writing. It is the easiest thing that you can do. It is the most cost-effective thing. It's a very convenient way of reflecting. When I write about something, I have to think about it, and only then can I write about it. Sometimes you are in a situation where you're not able to express yourself, or not able to understand what has happened, and it can be very small, something very small, such as like a problem with your boss, or it could be something very big, such as a problem with your mom or your mother. So writing, I have found, is one of the easiest ways. And this again has caught up, the world has caught up to this idea that writing is important. So if you look at the 3 things that I've enumerated, one thing is the 5-minute journal, which is also a writing technique, which consists of many things like affirmations, positive visualization. This 5-minute journal is actually a book that you can buy on Amazon. One of my students actually introduced it to me, and I would say that if you do it for 6 months, it does actually change your life. It changes the way you look at things. So I highly recommend that. Then you have something called gratitude journaling. So now if you look at your life, on a day-to-day basis, you really have to ask yourself, how many times do I say thank God for that, or thankfully this happened, or express gratitude in any way? In my opinion, most of us have many things to be grateful about. Many things. We may not have the best lives, we may not have the lives that we want, but there is still so much to be grateful about. And gratitude is a habit. So gratitude journaling is basically on a daily basis to write those things that you're happy about. And this also, when we talk about yoga therapy, this is one of the things that we use. And then there's something called the morning pages, which is basically another writing technique and a healing technique, where when you wake up in the morning, you write 3 to 5 pages about anything. So it's basically like regurgitating everything that is in your mind, all the negatives that are in your mind, all the positives also, but basically regurgitating it out, expressing it, and then being able to deal with it. So for many of you who don't practice these, it may seem like these things are very repetitive and that they are insignificant. But basically, these are very powerful tools, and many people are actually practicing this. So I would highly recommend it. Now, another thing is Yoga Nidra. Now, if Yoga Nidra is basically guided meditation, so in a Yoga Nidra, it basically means yogic sleep. And it is a boon for busy professionals, for stressed individuals. It's basically a collection of visualization techniques, positive affirmations, breath control, and stimulation and relaxation. And again, the world is waking up to Yoga Nidra. And it is, again, it's a great tool for those of you who might be interested. 20 minutes of Yoga Nidra is equal to 4 hours of deep sleep. So imagine if you have 40 minutes in a day, you could actually make up for 8 hours of sleep. Okay. Now, a note on happiness. And again, this comes from the Swami Vivekananda University. Happiness is not in the gulab jamun. Now, after having, I have about a decade of experience teaching people yoga and meditation and philosophy. And I have seen that, everyone is on a quest for happiness. We all want to be happy. And if you look at the fact that this is an eternal quest. Everybody wants to be happy. There is nobody who says, no, I don't want happiness. And everybody thinks that, okay, we strive very hard. We work very hard daily to be happy. But, you would also have found that once you get what you want, the thing that you thought would make you happy, it doesn't make you happy anymore, you know. So there's a small story which comes again from our old text, which is about the gulab jamun. Happiness is not in the gulab jamun. So basically the story is that if you like something, if you like gulab jamuns, right, and you can eat them every day, and that's your favorite sweet, the first gulab jamun tastes like heaven. It is blissful. As soon as you put it into your mouth, you are in heaven. You are in a state of bliss. The second one also, maybe the fifth one also, if you really like gulab jamuns. But the 50th gulab jamun does not give you the bliss. Actually, you might hate gulab jamuns by then. So the external object, that gulab jamun, is not what is giving you the happiness. It was not it, because then the 50th gulab jamun, the more the gulab jamun, the more the happiness. But no, it doesn't happen that way. So basically, through this story, we know that it is not the job that will give you happiness. It is not a car or a promotion or anything. It's not anything external that will give you happiness. Happiness is an inside job, and that is where you will find happiness. And of course, the tools of yoga, the tools of meditation, will also are your ways of achieving happiness. Okay, now I've spoken about meditation so much, and and writing and all of that. Now asana practice. Now asana is also important. When you see a lot of yoga teachers, they will say, okay, I meditate. Yoga is not only about asana, this and that, but no, asana is a very important aspect of yoga practice. And that is because even in the practice of yoga, and also in a lot of alternative therapies now, we have realized that your body stores a lot of emotions. So if you are happy, you will glow, okay, you will be healthy. But if you are sad, you will experience a lot of aches and pains. And that is an indication of the state of your mind. So if you see lower back pain, may be an indication. If you have lower back pain, it may be an indication of dissatisfaction on your professional or personal front. You may be feeling powerless about life. If you have neck pain, you may be feeling overwhelmed with life. You may feel insecure. If you have pain in your shoulders, it indicates that you may have anxiety about the future or fear of the future. So asana practice is as important as your meditation practice. And again, there's so many tools, and these are all free. There are so many YouTube videos that you could use. There are many yoga apps that you could, you can download. I think one app is called Down Dog, which is really good. Yoga Journal is another app which is great. And of course, now you have online classes also. With the pandemic, the great thing that has happened for yoga teachers like me is that we have students from all over the world logging in, and now distance is really not a barrier to practicing yoga. So I encourage you guys to really look at that and consider, for a healthy mind and healthy body, consider adding asana to your daily routine. Okay, now individual actions. For us to actually, be a healthy society, we need healthy individuals. So if you look at the second point, if you have healthy individuals, they create healthy families. Healthy families create healthy communities. Healthy communities create healthy societies, and healthy societies make a healthy country. And this is basically the need of the hour, because in a country which is rapidly growing, and we're growing by leaps and bounds, it is very important for us to retain, a sense, a spirit of health, healthy in mind and in body. So, so if all of us are working too hard, and if all of us are depressed, and if all of us are somehow unhappy with life, we will not be able to really collaborate with people. We will not be able to work together, for a healthy country, for even like a healthy family or a healthy society. In today's world, and I speak from experience of having worked in great companies. Infosys is like a known name, and they do such great work. And I've seen that the reason a company like Infosys is so great is not because they have like experts. No, but it's because that they have great experts who want to collaborate. Their experts are actually collaborators. So I was a software engineer, like a very young software engineer, and I used to work with like my project manager or my DM, and all of us were working together, and that sense of community really makes makes Infosys the kind of company that is. And that is applicable to like a company like Infosys. It is applicable to a college, it is applicable to a school, it's applicable to like everything, any kind of organization. And that is why we must be healthy in our minds and in our bodies. So I hope you can appreciate the way the kind of connection that I'm trying to build in your mind, like the connection between your mind, between your body, actions, and the world. Right. Another example of a successful organization where there are no experts but only collaborators is Apple. So now if you see Apple doesn't have like only great software engineers, so a college cannot rest only on the laurels of one department. A college will only be known if all departments are doing well. So in the same way, Apple doesn't have just the software engineering department, which is great. Apple has a great marketing department. Apple has a great HR department. They are really good at what they do, and that is because they are not looking only at at being experts in their fields. There is a need to be healthy in mind, having healthy relationships, and only then can we really grow as people and as a wider country. So a note about the versatility of yoga, and with this, I'm actually going to come to the end of my presentation and take any questions that you have. So yoga is a versatile subject. Okay, there's no other. If you look at the history of the world, okay, there's no other subject which is this versatile. Like Zumba is a very recent phenomena. Aerobics is a very recent phenomena. There's nothing which has really captured the people's imagination as yoga has, and we should be proud that it's something that is so endemic. It's a subject which is ours, but we must also appreciate like why is it that something which is centuries old, we don't even know how old it is, why is it so relevant, why is the world so enamored by it? And a couple of years ago, I think last year actually, I was at the Bangalore Literature Festival, and I was presenting my book. And someone in the audience asked me, like, what do you think about, these fitness fads that are coming? Do you think yoga is just another fad, and it has come and then it's gonna go, just like everything else? And I told him that no, yoga is here to stay. It's always been there. Now, if you look at even yourself, your grandparents, many of you will have grandparents that practiced yoga. Many of you may have parents that practiced yoga. You will practice yoga. You may have practiced yoga. Your kids and your grandchildren, like everybody has practiced yoga, and that's across generations, decades and decades and decades. So do I think that yoga is like a fad and it's going to go? No, I don't, because I have seen, and the world has seen, that it is here to stay. And yoga, we've seen that it, as any other living subject, it has evolved, and it is going to continue evolving. And that, I think, is the fundamental reason why we should also endeavor to make yoga a part of our lives, because it has been proven that it has the secret to happiness. It has the secret to contentment and to balance. And in this slide, you will see a few different kinds of yoga styles. Bhakti yoga, I mentioned before, it's the yoga of devotion. Raj yoga is the yoga of kings. Tantra yoga is yoga based on tantric principles. Hatha yoga is yoga of physical postures. Ashtanga yoga is the Ashta Anga, 8-limbed yoga. Power yoga is more like a very dynamic kind of yoga. Yin yoga is a very slow kind of yoga designed to restore the body. Iyengar yoga is again a very homegrown style of yoga propounded by Mr. B.K.S. Iyengar. And then you have restorative yoga. It's a lot. It deals a lot with rejuvenating the body. So I hope that this presentation has shed a little bit more light on the subject of yoga, which I feel tends to be looked at people very unidimensionally, but actually it's a very deep subject and it's a very vast subject. So at this point, if you have any questions, let me know. I'm going to go ahead and close this slide, and if there are any questions, I could take a few of your questions.
Participants can unmute their mic and ask questions if they have any.
Hello, ma'am. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Yes, ma'am. I am from Ganesh Kumar from Puducherry.
Yes, Ganesh.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Ma'am, I want to reduce my deep thinking, ma'am. I'm always thinking in a deep manner, ma'am. After completing the deep thinking, I think that I am so much of thinker about the on any problems or anything, ma'am. How we can reduce this issue, ma'am?
Yeah. So in the presentation itself, I was saying that stress happens because we are thinking so much. The speed of our thoughts are
Yes,
so fast, that we feel that our mind is running and we are unable to catch up. And the best
yes,
way to do that is to slow down the thoughts. Now, meditation is the solution to that. So I would suggest for you particularly, because you're
yes,
saying that I have so many thoughts and all of that, I would
yes,
recommend that you take out some time every day and write your thoughts. Write all the
oh,
thoughts that make you anxious. Write all the thoughts that come to your mind, and just
yes,
make it a free writing exercise.
yes, ma'am.
Because if you look at our bodies, we detox the bodies so much, right?
Yes,
We
ma'am.
exercise, we keep them clean, but the mind never gets that. And
Yes,
so
ma'am.
all of that junk and all of that, those thoughts remain in our mind, and there's no outlet
Yes,
for
ma'am.
that. So the simplest solution to that is to give it an outlet,
Okay, ma'am.
and the best thing is just take a blank notebook and just write for.
Yes,
I have found that it's helpful to write even for just 10 minutes daily,
yes,
right
ma'am.
before you sleep. It will improve the quality of your sleep.
Yes,
It
ma'am.
will improve the way you think also. So
Okay, ma'am.
that I would recommend to you. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. I
Thank you.
okay, ma'am. I will do, ma'am. Okay, ma'am.
Yeah.
Any other question from the participants? Madam, there is one question in the chat box which I am going to ask.
Yes.
In the meditation, is it necessary to chant any mantra?
So it depends on the level of the meditator. So if you have started meditation, if this is your first entry into meditation, it is not necessary, but it is helpful. Because when you're chanting, your mind is only then focusing on the chanting, it is not getting distracted. So it is very useful to have a mantra, but you will also find that with practice, you will not need a mantra anymore.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello. Yeah. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Good
Yeah.
afternoon.
Thank you very much for enlightening us on a personal and the professional front. Ma'am,
Thank
I
you.
wanted to ask one question. Do you think that the physical fitness is going to be related with the mental fitness? Are they complementary with each other?
Yes, we have already seen that physical fitness and mental fitness are related.
Yeah.
There is no if you see what we call psychosomatic diseases. These are
Yes.
the
Yes.
diseases which have no physical cause. Okay, like for
Okay.
instance, people who are depressed. Okay, as an
Yeah.
example, people who are depressed, we can diagnose their depression. Right? They come to us and they say, okay, I'm depressed. Can I do some yoga for that? But you
Yes.
will also see that sometimes depressed people will have things like skin issues.
Yes.
Any kind of
Yeah.
food. It could be something as simple as, let's say, acne, and it could be as dangerous as, dandruff. It could be vitiligo. It could be psoriasis. So,
Mm-hmm.
these are psychosomatic diseases. There is no known cause. No Western medicine doesn't know why psoriasis happens. They have no idea why, certain other skin diseases happen. There is no conclusive evidence. So these are psychosomatic diseases. There's something that is going wrong in your mind, in your emotions, which is
Yes.
manifesting like that. So
Ah.
yes, it is
Okay.
very, very complementary, and it is very important to know and to understand the the connection between these.
Yes, and it depends on the circumstances also. Maybe in some circumstances that person is going to behave in a different manner like this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, very nicely. At least this is the first session where we came to know about the history of this yoga. It's nice to listen
Thank you
to
so
you.
much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks a lot, ma'am. Yeah.
Madam, I'm reading another questions. 2 or 3 are left. Please suggest any app for Yoga Kriya. If you know any app, mobile app for Yoga Kriya. Which
Okay.
we can use.
Yeah, so yoga kriyas are. I would actually not recommend an app because these must be done under the guidance of a trained professional. Like kriyas would be things like you would do your jal neti. These are cleansing techniques, and anywhere where you're doing anything internal to you, anything which is invasive, I don't. There is first of all there is no app that I'm aware of, and I don't think that there is any scope for doing it online through an app because there is just too much room for error that something could go wrong. So as of now, no, there's no app, but definitely there are many online yoga studios, and they're doing a great job. So you can actually log into them, and a teacher will be there, a live teacher, and they will take you through the whole kriya process. So I would recommend that. I would not recommend an app for that.
Another very relevant question, even I was supposed to ask this question. Can we control the irritation level using yoga? Because
Yes.
we have a problem. These.
Yeah. And irritation and this any kind of emotion which is like that, like where you get angry and irritated and all of that, sometimes we feel that these emotions are beyond us. They're not happening. They're happening because of our circumstances. They're happening because of other people, and we find ourselves in situations which we are unable to really control this reaction that we have, this irritation that we have. So, but the only way, because we live in a world which is ever changing, we live in a very living, breathing world, irritation will be there, suffering will be there, but we need to learn how to detach. So, it is not that through yoga you will stop being irritated, but it is that you will stop reacting. Right, that person who causes that irritation, that situation which causes that irritation will always be there. It'll always be there because that is not in your control. What is in your control is to be able to just slow down a little bit and say, okay, is my irritation really helping? No, it's only harming me. So the only way to get rid of your irritation is introspection, and introspection is through the process of meditation. I really urge all of you to practice the writing techniques. Practice those daily, and you will see that your level of irritation actually comes down. Your level of anger actually comes down. You will find that it makes a huge difference. And yoga is experiential. Yoga is such an old philosophy. It has been working for so many centuries. It will definitely work for you also.
Another is that listening to affirmations, which is the best time, early morning or before going to sleep?
Early morning is the best time, and if you have time, you should listen to it in your bed as you fall asleep. Positive affirmations, yes.
And another question is it compulsory to do deep breathing before going to bed? Because I do it whenever I get time, and also I feel uncomfortable.
Okay, yes. So deep breathing can be done whenever you have time. That's great. The fact that you're doing it is the more important aspect. The reason we recommend deep breathing before sleeping is because nowadays cases of insomnia are on the rise. Also, the quality of sleep of people, because they might snore. There's so many issues because of that, snoring and bad dreams and all of that. So just to calm down the mind, we recommend deep breathing, but otherwise it is not a mandate that it has to be done before bed.
So another one is related to our the topic. Food is the fuel for our body. Which is the alternative fuel for our body? Yeah.
Food is fuel, and which is the alternative fuel?
Sure.
Okay, I would say, see, alternative fuel would be your lifestyle. So let's say, for whatever reason, maybe I live in a joint family, maybe I live in a very big family, and I'm not able to make a decision about what to eat, right? Let's say it's like beyond me and it's too stressful and all of that. So the alternative to still being healthy is, at least, take out some time to do exercise. Try to listen to positive things daily. Try to mix with people who are positive daily. So besides food, there's so much in your lifestyle which might be draining you and depleting your energy as an individual. So look at those. Lifestyle is the alternative fuel. Look at that. What can you change in your lifestyle to still fuel your body and fuel your mind?